purchase and sale agreement. That's prepared by the Arizona Association of Realtors. And there are a number of risks for both the buyer and the seller in that document. The easiest example of a buyer risk is the earnest money deposit. Most buyers assume, and in fact most realtors assume, I've found that many realtors are surprised to learn this, but most buyers assume that the earnest money deposit, $1,000, $2,000, is the only money that's at risk for them if they default and don't close on the property. So when I say default, that means that there's no right of the buyer not to close. An easy example of that is I have a loan contingency, the lender says no, I terminate the agreement, and I have no liability to the seller. But if the lender has approved the transaction, I've done my home inspection, I've signed off on that, and suddenly something tragic has happened. I've lost my job and can't afford the house. Or I've just learned I've been relocated, so I don't want to buy the house anymore. That's a default. You've already waived all your conditions, and if the seller is not amenable to terminating the agreement, it's their option, you're now in default. Most buyers would assume, no big deal, only got $1,000 up, yeah, that's all I lose. But that's not what the purchase agreement provides. The purchase agreement gives the seller 3 remedies if you default. One is to keep the earnest money, as we all expect, but there are 2 other remedies. The second remedy is an action for specific performance, which means they can go to court and force you to buy the property. Now, if I need a loan to buy the property, it's unlikely the seller will take that action against me because I don't have the money to buy it. But right now in the market, we're seeing a lot of home buyers who are paying cash. And they have proven to the seller that they have the cash. So I'm the seller, and now I know you have the money to buy the house. You now default. And that's easy to default when you're a cash buyer. Why? Because your only out is the 10-day inspection period. 10 days after you sign that agreement and you do your home inspection, you have to go forward.
The way it's written.
The way it's written. There's no out.
So you are able to review it and help, depending on the situation, make changes to protect the buyer and seller.
Exactly. I have found that most parties, both seller and buyer, assume that the only remedy is the earnest money deposit, and so I cross off the other 2 remedies. It's certainly fair for there to be a remedy available to the seller. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be any remedy. I can just default and walk away and you're just left standing there. But I remove the other 2 mainly because the seller doesn't expect to have those remedies, and therefore they should not feel that they're giving up anything. And this way, if the buyer does default, they know it's a liquidated number. They know that, okay, I put up $2,000, $5,000. It's always somewhat dependent on the value of the home, but they know that if they walk away when they can't, when they're not allowed to, and it's a default, they just leave that money on the table and they're done.